Hi everybody, welcome into the Irish NFL show presented by Trust Gaming. We are delighted, if you can see around us, to be at the Woolshed Bar and Grill in central Dublin. I sneaked down to Dublin for the weekend. It is good crack. Here with the rest of the lads as well, Colin, Brian and Mark, and also a special guest today. We've got a member of the Rooney family on the show today, Tommy Rooney, who is the host of the Boys Upstairs show, a new show in the States. We'll put a link to it at the bottom. But Tommy, for a start off, welcome to Dublin.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome so far. I'm really excited to talk about the NFL.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And before we talk about the NFL, we've got a bit of news. Provided that the London games go ahead, Colin, we've got a show in the London Irish Centre on the 16th of October, and that is the day before the Dolphins play the Jaguars. I've got that correct? Yeah, the Jaguars. The London Jaguars. I'm only joking. It's all a bit of crack. But really looking forward to it. And Colin, it's going to be good. We've got a special guest being announced soon.
We do indeed. The fact that we're in the London Irish Centre, I think, is fantastic. I mean, talk about a venue steeped in history. It hosted the Late Late Show, recorded there in the 60s. Shane McGowan and the Pogues recorded there in the 80s. And more recently, I suppose, synonymous with Ed Sheeran. Glad to have a fellow Ginger there, be bringing the show live to the London Irish Centre. It should be good crack, and we have tickets available if you check out the website. And we are looking forward. Michael is working hard on that special guest.
Absolutely. And Brian, I know you're very excited to go to London, yeah? You excited to go?
Yeah, no, I really am. I can't wait for the show, and it's great to see the level of interest so far since the tickets went on sale, and it's just great to see all different supporters of each team coming together for a big event, and ultimately that's what we want, to get the NFL community together, whether it's Ireland, UK or Europe, and have a great night and celebrate the fact that the games are back in London.
Absolutely. And finally, on the London game, Mark, any clues on the special guest yet? Do you want to tell us?
No, I don't, Michael. It's just when you say London Irish, I think you're talking about me all the time. But, we'll ease that. We'll ease that.
That was a good one. As I said at the start of the show, we're joined by a member of the Rooney family. Tommy, obviously back in Dublin now after the pandemic. I'm presuming you're a Steelers fan, yeah?
Yeah.
So, I had to joke about it, but we're going to try and talk this week about some current topics, and I'll start with you, Tommy. Yep. The whole crack around the vaccine. Now, I'm sure if you haven't seen the rules, the NFL put a number of different rules out at the minute. Basically, I guess Colin implying that you have to get the vaccine now, really, if you are playing. I'll tell you what, Colin, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on that at the moment if you are a player in the NFL?
I think the league have made it very clear what their thoughts are. Get vaccinated or else. I think if you're if for coaches, we've already seen it impact. I mean, the Vikings have made that change. So I think for coaches, it's going to be a huge issue. For players, if you're a star or a starter, then you can make that decision. If you're on the bubble, or your roster spot isn't absolutely assured, then I think that's where it might get more difficult, because why is a team going to want to carry that risk? Mark is probably the man to assess risk. Mark, would you take a player who wasn't vaccinated onto a 53-man roster?
No. It's that simple, guys. I mean, you are running that risk of losing games. You're running that risk. You're dead right, Colin. Top starters fine, but 46 to 53, the guys that are fighting for a roster position, it's going to be relevant. The vaccination status is going to come into play in that regard. We all know Cole Beasley has been very prominent on social media around this. I mean, I think the great line, Bucks UK fans will like this, the great line he put out on Twitter was, are you really going to cut the best slot receiver in the NFL? And somebody posted up and said, I don't see how the Bills can cut Chris Godwin, which was a pretty good comeback, in fairness. But of course, it has to play. As you say, Minnesota have already made the move in relation to it. But, Tommy, obviously, the situation with the vaccine is different in every country. It's different geopolitical spheres and everything. How do you see it playing out in the NFL?
Yeah, so I think that it's certainly something that's going to come up when teams are looking to sign free agents. They're allowed to ask, are you vaccinated or not? And it just adds an inherent risk. If you want to possibly get that guy on your team, he's going to have to be in a completely different protocol than everybody else. I think I saw today that they have to be 6 feet apart in the showers. They're not allowed to go in the cold tubs. And if everybody's vaccinated, then you have no restrictions. So that's a completely different way of running a team. And I think that in this era where you can have an advantage, if you don't have any restrictions, why wouldn't you want that advantage? So obviously you can't force people to take it, but the restrictions that they've put in place certainly do kind of make it seem like that's what they want everyone to do. and it makes sense financially for the league. So, the Steelers kind of last year had to play 3 games in 13 days, I believe. So, obviously, that's not ideal, and I think that hurt us. So, I think that in that regard, it's good so that you can have a set schedule and not have to move around a lot.
And it's fair to say all of those movements weren't the fault of the Steelers. It was actually the teams you were playing actually forced the schedule changes.
Yeah, and obviously they didn't want that to happen. You can't blame anybody. Everyone was dealing with it, but it definitely hurt us more than anyone. So I think that this year it's good that we're not going to have that. And Cole Beasley can do whatever he wants, but if his team loses a game, then I don't think he's going to be talking as much on social media as he has been. But DeAndre Hopkins too. Did you see what he tweeted and deleted that? I'm not expecting that either. But
that was gone very quickly from Twitter. That was gone within about 3 seconds.
His agent probably texted him, "You need to delete that." Right.
But the thing as well is, and one thing that I should have said at the start, and Tommy, they're saying that you may have to forfeit a game, and even not just the Steelers, but looking back at some of the games last year, if they had that then, there's going to be serious consequences. So it will be interesting to see how many players actually get vaccinated now.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, with the addition of the extra team for the wild card, having 7 teams, those teams are going to be 1 game difference, and having to forfeit a game could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. So that's a very big deal. So I think that it's certainly going to be something that teams take into consideration, and whether or not they can tell guys you have to or not, I don't know, but I think it's very big and obviously unprecedented in the league. So,
yes, sir. In 7 weeks until the season starts, preseason starts in around 3 weeks. A man that's very happy about that is Brian. Brian, before we move on, what's your thoughts on the vaccine? Do you think it'll really get to the point now where a lot of players will just take it? Or?
Well, I think in the region of 70% have been vaccinated, but I think to the point Colin made, it's the NFL's baby at the moment. This is a clear indication from them. They've even come out this week and said they're going to have markers on the players' sleeves in terms of who's vaccinated and who's not during the game. So not so much the people in the stadium, but the fans. Everybody will know who is not taking the vaccine. And then I saw other things coming out this week where players have said, if you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID again, but if the rules are in place that you can return to the premises within 48 hours, as opposed to 10 days if you're not vaccinated. So the league are doing their utmost to get everybody vaccinated. And as you touched on, different countries, different views, and people have different walks of life in terms of what they want to do. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's their job, it's their responsibility to the public to get vaccinated. It's not just about them, it's about making sure other people don't pick up the virus. So for me, you should get vaccinated.
Absolutely, and we're still working towards these London games, so hopefully that puts that in good stead as well. Please God. Look, we change topics every show now to the point about the Packers, but we have to talk about this very quickly. Multiple sportsbooks in America believe that Aaron Rodgers will, quote, retire next week. Also, Davante Adams is having a couple of situations. Colin, we'll start with you. First off, on Rodgers, do you think he'll retire? Training camp, he's supposed to be at training camp Wednesday morning. What's going to happen?
Well, up to the last 24 hours, I would have said nothing was going to happen. I felt this was very reminiscent of, go back a decade, different sport, Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo wanted out of Manchester United. Yeah. He made that very clear. In his words, he called himself a slave. Then FIFA president Sepp Blatter came out and supported Ronaldo's position and agreed with the slave comments. Ridiculous, but that's how a guy getting paid, $250,000 a week, but that's how he said he felt he was being treated. He wanted out. He couldn't return. That was it. It was obvious he was going to leave. Did Cristiano Ronaldo leave that season? No, he did not. He came back. How did Manchester United fans feel? I'd say they felt bad about it for 10 seconds. As soon as the new season started, they warmly embraced Cristiano Ronaldo and were delighted, as he went on to have yet another good season. He left the following year. I thought that's where the Rodgers situation was headed. The last couple of days, we've begun to see these retirement rumours, begun to see Andrew Brandt, who seems to be pretty connected. I mean, the guy ran the Packers in the past. He has begun to shift a little bit. I don't know. I still think it's more likely for me that Aaron Rodgers pulls on the green and yellow, but it's more uncertain. I was previously 99% sure. I'm now 90%.
Well, Tommy, if Rodgers does retire, there's obviously going to be serious implications, not just for the Packers, but for the league. There is a situation also where he could come back next year, but he's still going to take a massive pay cut. What do you think will happen with him this week?
So he posted, I don't know if you guys saw, him and Davante Adams posted the same picture on their Instagram stories of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. So the rumor or whatever that the internet has created is that they're referencing that this is going to be their last dance. I don't know if that was a big thing. It was a big thing, the documentary in America.
Yeah.
So basically they said Michael Jordan was like, this is my last year. We're going to try to win it, but I'm gone after this year. So they're saying that maybe that's where Aaron Rodgers is, and Devontae Adams is on the last year of his contract as well, so he might be gone after this year too. So I think that if I had to put money on it, which I wouldn't obviously, but I think that he would probably come back this year. And I think that after this year, the Packers are going to be a much different team. Jordan Love starting and Devontae Adams probably gone, so they might go into rebuild mode. But I think this year, I would assume go all in. But I just don't see him retiring after an MVP season. It wouldn't make sense. And he's kind of up there in age, so if he takes a year off, then he might not come back and be the same. But who knows?
Time will tell. Brian, cast your mind back to January, the NFC divisional game. The greatest team in the history. I'm only joking, Packers fans, but the Packers were heavy favourites to win the Super Bowl at one point. They were playing lights out offense, and now we're looking at a situation where Rodgers could be gone, retiring, whether that happens or not, and Adams looks like what's going to happen, Brian?
Well, I just want to say one thing on the Rodgers team first. So this has gone on so long now. One team, maybe two teams, and three teams, but it's gone on so long. It's hard to actually remember what the original problem was. Was it the drafting of Love, or was it the fact that he didn't get wide receivers that he felt would bring the team on? But yet they've gone to the championship game 2 years in a row. And last year they had two players, a tight end and a wide receiver who were undrafted that actually had really good seasons. So albeit they didn't draft him initially, they still gave him the weapons. So it's hard to know. And then he's been offered a new contract. He's turned that down. So at this stage, I don't believe he's going to retire. $28 million he has to hand back in a bonus. And he avoids himself a salary this year. And even next year, similar to the Gronk scenario, they still hold his rights. So even if he does decide to unretire next summer, they still have to get compensation. So I just don't see that as happening. As George Young once said, the great general manager, footballers play football. He needs to get his head down, go to training camp and get on with it. And as for Devontae Adams, I actually see that a very different scenario. He has said he wants to go to training camp. He's not going to hold out. He'd be charged 50 grand a day if he holds out. He said he wants the contract. He said he wants to stay at the Packers. I think it's about value for him. He'll get it in the end.
Mark, will we see Aaron Rodgers get on his little training bike going into Wisconsin on Wednesday morning? Or?
I don't think you'll see him on Wednesday morning, but I think you'll still see him with the Green Bay Packers. I've said this consistently all the way along, and I'll keep saying it. Aaron Rodgers will still be in Green Bay. Deshaun Watson will still be in Houston. Russell Wilson will still be in Seattle. This is the NFL. It's not the NBA. The teams hold the power and the control. And as Brian alluded to, retirement isn't really a threat here. Like, if Rodgers is down there now moaning about retirement, it's like, let him off. You wanted to know when this started? I'll tell you when it started. It started at 3rd and 8 in the NFC Championship game when it really mattered, and Aaron Rodgers did not make the right decision again in the right big game. For a player who has won one NFC Championship, one Super Bowl, the amount of whining that goes on is just beyond compare. In all fairness, he needs to buck up, get on with it, and lead his team actually back to a Super Bowl.
Okay. Can I just publicly say now, as somebody that has edited our graphics for the season, and Aaron Rodgers is in every one of them, that took a long time. I would feel horrible just before we go, and I've got a couple more segments.
Unless he ends up in Denver.
Well, I mean, I could probably take that. I remember draft night, that was Tommy, I would feel awful if we didn't ask you this. Obviously, Steelers, etc. What's your thoughts on Big Ben going into the new season? There is a lot of talk at the minute, maybe like over here anyway. Maybe we're completely wrong. The Browns taking a step up. The Ravens going to go to that next level. Are you confident that the Steelers could win the division this season, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you would have asked me the same question last year, I probably would have said Ravens or Browns, and then we won it. So I think that Ben this year had a full off season. He's not coming off Tommy John surgery like he was last year, so he had a full off season to do his regular routine. And I think he's inspired by the fact that we were embarrassed at home last year in the playoffs against probably our biggest rival. So I think that us having lower expectations is very good, and I think that the biggest difference is having Najee. And, I think Ben set the record for most passes thrown in a game in NFL history in the playoffs against the Browns, and that's obviously not a good thing. So having a consistent running back is huge, and I think that Najee is one of those guys that can transition to the NFL very easily, hopefully, like a Derrick Henry a couple of years ago. So I think that we're going to surprise a lot of people this year, and I don't know about the division. I wouldn't say that that's like a lock or anything, but I think that we have a chance, and I think that we'll definitely be a wild card team. So I'm excited.
I don't want to ask the other guys this. I feel like I'm leaving them out now, but I'm not, because you're not going to be here next week, and I'm asking this. You got a dark horse in the NFL this year that we haven't talked about?
Well, I don't know if they're a dark horse, but I would say that the Colts. I think that Carson Wentz is going to. I think that, and I love the city of Philadelphia, but I think that the city of Philadelphia kind of got into his head a little bit, and I think a fresh start with Frank Wright is going to be huge, and they have good weapons. I think that's probably. I think that they'll win that division, even though the Titans got Julio. But I would say they're a good dark horse.
I like that. And you can find out who our dark horses are on Thursday, September the 9th at 10:30 or 10 p.m. When we make our selections from an undisclosed Dublin location so far. And I know Brian can't wait to talk about the Giants, so we'll talk about them then.
Again.
And me and the Broncos and stuff. But the last topic today, while we have you, Tommy, is this. We'll start with you, Colin. Michael Thomas, another guy that I have created graphics for the Saints, is going to miss apparently the first 6 weeks of the regular season with an injury. Already with Drew Brees out. I mean, what's your expectations if you're the Saints going into this season now, do you think?
I'd be concerned. The Michael Thomas one is a strange one. Why? Because the injury apparently dates back to last year. So why is the surgery only happening now? That's what I don't really understand. But then Thomas had issues with the Saints last season. The Saints seem to have kind of hit a similar maybe speed bump to the Steelers kind of last year. They started well and then, but their train has completely come off the track. Who is going to be their starting QB? Jameis is the turnover machine, but can you really say that Taysom Hill is a franchise QB? And you suddenly don't have Michael Thomas? Look, in Sean Payton, they have a phenomenal head coach, genuinely one of the best in the league. He will figure something out, but talk about back to the wall before the season has even begun. It's not going to be easy for the Saints. And if you're the Tampa Bay Bucks, I mean, talk about being born under a lucky star. Does anyone in the history of anywhere anything compare to Tom Brady?
Well, yeah, and the Bucks have brought all their expiring guys back. The first time ever in the history of the NFL has happened. Tommy, what's your thoughts on that division as a whole? Do you think the Saints have a chance, or is it going to be like a
well, obviously this hurts a lot. I think that Jameis getting LASIK surgery could potentially change his turnover machine status. But, he did have the most touchdown passes in the league this last year being a starter. And I think that being under Drew Brees will hopefully develop him more and make less mistakes. But, I think Alvin Kamara is probably the best running back in the NFL. And the fact that they're on a new starting quarterback, I think the plan should just be to feed him the ball as much as possible. And then I think that it'll probably be Jameis that's the starter. But I think that obviously they'll still use Taysom in a similar role to how they have been in the past. But I think that's the Bucs division. And I don't even know if the Saints are a wild card team at this point. But we'll see.
Let's see what happens. Brian, Sam Monson actually said what Colin said within seconds. Why wasn't that operation done months ago? I mean, it was a strange thing to come out with, especially days away from camp starting. Yeah,
and they say the actual original injury started. It was week 1 last year when they played the Bucs in New Orleans, and they waited till June to actually have the operation. I think there's a bigger situation here. I think he actually is going to get traded for the season, despite the injury, because they're in salary cap hell. They've managed to get themselves to a certain part before the cut-off at the end of July, mid-August, and I think some team out there will take a flyer on the fact that they'll probably get him for a third or a fourth now and take on the injury, get him ready, and that will relieve the Saints of some salary cap hell coming down the line, because whether he's injured or not, there's been issues there for the past 12 months. I mean, there's continuous problems. He's never really settled down to become the player that we saw over the past few years. And in the playoff game against the Bucs in particular, he wasn't there. He was deemed to be fit, but he didn't really have a really good game. So for me, he's kind of gone off a little bit, and I think he needs a fresh start. I think the Saints probably recognising the fact that this year is not going to be a year for them in terms of going to the playoffs, and it's about kind of looking at long term, and they don't have a quarterback long term right now. So interested to see what happens, but I don't think the playbook will be geared towards him either. With Taysom Hill probably running a lot of special plays. James Winston's more of a 5-yard, 6-yard pass kind of control play rather than going deep at certain times. So for me, I think he'll get traded. That's would be a bit of a turn up. I think that will happen.
Let's see what happens. And obviously, Mark, Michael Thomas could end up going to our London event if he does miss the first 6 weeks. What's your thoughts on that situation?
Him coming to our London event, a good possibility.
Special guest. Good possibility. Special guest, yeah. Could happen.
No, I mean, look, he is such an amazing wide receiver. I mean, you can take DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas. There's a few in contention there for being the number one wide receiver. Brian's just upset I haven't mentioned Kenny Golladay now. But anyway, there's a number, and Michael Thomas is an exceptional wide receiver. It is a massive loss to the Saints. As we said, they're going through transition without Breeze this year. Do I see a world where Jameis is eating W's? No, I see him drinking L's for quite a fair portion of this season. And, you know, the Panthers and C-Mac is back, but they're going to try and incorporate now Sam Darnold. I mean, there's some interesting storylines in this division. I mean, Sam Darnold coming there and can he revitalize his season? But I will give you a wildcard team, potentially, in that, which is the Atlanta Falcons. Oh. You know, they messed up last season. Yes, they fall apart at times. They've drafted Kyle Pitts. They still have a very strong offense. Yes, they've traded Julio, and that is a loss. But when you look at the development of Ridley, you look at what they can do in that division, I think, yes, Tampa will run away with it. But Atlanta will be there or thereabouts. And that's a storyline to watch.
Yes, sir. And I can't wait to hear all these guys' predictions in the next few weeks. So close now to the season start. Finally, Tommy, we mentioned your show at the start, but how can people find you on Twitter? I'd obviously recommend people follow.
So it's the Boys Upstairs Show on YouTube. We have Instagram, same name. Twitter's upstairs_boys. We just started out. It's literally me and my little brother in my attic. So it's pretty funny. I think you would like it. And this has been awesome. And it's great to talk to people that love the NFL because I'm a big fan. So it's awesome.
Appreciate it, and we will try and talk about different sports about any time. And look, if we're ever over there, we'll try and do a special show or something. But thanks to you and thanks to your family for coming on the show as well. And we wish you and the Steelers the very best over the season. Who knows what's going to happen there, but it'll be interesting. For now, that's us in the Irish NFL Show, presented by Trust Gaming. You can follow us on Facebook at the Irish NFL Show, and check us out on Instagram as well. And if you haven't, or you're thinking about waiting the tickets come on sale, grab your tickets now for the London event. You can cancel them or get them refunded if the games don't go ahead. We fully expect them to. Thanks very much.